Hi everyone, I hope you are all doing fine, right? So today we will be continuing from the last lecture where we are talking about the role of supply chain management in the success of any organization. So we discussed about the 5 drivers of supply chain where we talked about production, products basically, inventory, we talked about information. So all these things we discussed, okay, how they can make an impact on any company, the location for example. So all these points are very important, and anything if that does not work well, then it can create a uh, can reduce the efficiency for the organization. And all top notch companies in the world today, the most successful companies are companies which have been able to manage their supply chain system very effectively. Okay. So, let us look at some facts. Let us start this class with some facts about supply chain management. So, it says 10 to 30% higher on time delivery performance. So, a good supply chain management system can lead to 10 to 30% higher on time delivery performance. So, that means the company can improve its on time delivery, reach to the market and all. 40 to 65% advantage in cash to cash cycle time. Okay. 50 to 80% less standing inventory. So, that is a big benefit to the company. 6% increase in revenue. So, that means if a company can let us say improve its supply chain management, its revenue can improve by 6%, which is too much, which is very good number. 45% total supply chain cost advantage over their median supply chain competitors. So, that can give you a competitive advantage as well, right. So, we can see that these facts are from the research outputs that about supply chain management. Now, in nutshell, if I say what supply chain management helps you in is, it helps you in waste reduction, faster delivery, efficiency in customization, because as you have seen the case of Dell, you can understand what the customer requires directly through its demand, and you can produce, you can ask your production team to do that, and that saves a lot of time, right. Reduces your inventory carrying costs. So, you do not have to hold the inventory, for example, the case of Walmart's cross docking system which I had said. So, cross docking was a case where we said that you do not need to store your product, that can come from the inbound vehicle and then directly get, maybe some processing is done and go into the outbound vehicle, right. So, this was this was one phenomena which process developed by Walmart. So, companies have developed such kind of strong processes, right. It reduces the cost for the final customer obviously, right. So, a good efficient supply chain can help you in cutting down your costs, enhances the cash flow, right, increases the revenue, and as we have seen in the last slide, and obviously your return on investment improves, which is an indication of a good strong company, right. So, all these if we see, these are only a few, I am saying there can be many more advantages that you can connect to supply chain management system, right. So, the question here is, it is very important. So, we need to understand what are the processes involved in SCM, right. What processes are involved with the supply chain system. So, if we understand these processes, automatically we can work on it and we can improve upon it. Let us see. So, the processes involved in supply chain system, supply chain management is starts with the customer relationship management. So, an effective customer relationship management, if any company has a very strong CRM, which we have done in the last as a last unit. So, it can understand the customer requirements, the customer necessities, the design in terms of not only design and specification, but also the number of units the customer requires, the when does the delivery need to happen, all these things, and at what stages, what does it have any seasonal effect. So, all these different elements of the customer can be well understood, right. So, all this helps the both the customer and the supplier, right. It creates a very healthy relationship between the two. Now, next if you see supplier relationship management. So, now how does the supplier integrate with its back end operations? Now, when you talk about the customer, it is the forward integration, right. How does the company integrate itself with the back end suppliers? For example, let us say if Dell is manufacturing computers, so it must be needing a lot of different components for its final assembly. Now, to make this assembly or to this get this collect this work in process inventories or this whatever finished goods, you need to have lots of suppliers attached to it. So, how do you manage this supplier relationship? How do you select those suppliers? Who are the suppliers who will be producing or supplying you those components? How do you manage them? Okay. The third thing is in the process involvement, in the process involved is the demand management. How does the company understand the demand, right? The demand can be from both sides, from the customer side, from the supplier side. How does it manage the inventory? How does it manage the demand? So, if you look at it from both sides, since we are a case of B2B, right? So, maybe one thing is we are talking about our suppliers here, right? And on the other side we are talking about here the customers, right. So, this is from a customer's perspective. So, customer, let us say there are various customers. Now, how do you manage the demand from how much of demand is coming from the customer side, right, is one thing, and how do you manage this demand from the supplier side. Now, why is it important? Because if we do not understand this demand management properly, then there will be a case of unnecessary idle capacity or idle inventory and all these things, which is a wastage of precious capital to the company. Then you have customer service management, which if you can see it here, I have written it. So, customer service management, what kind of services are important when you talk about an efficient supply chain system? So, is the customer somebody who wants, let us say, an efficient supply chain or a responsive supply chain? Now, what is this demand? Now, some companies, their core competency is to produce and supply goods at the right time, right, at the best quality, and some companies have the ability to produce in large bulk and create economies of scale. So, and there are different kinds of services attached that are required. For example, a computer selling company may have to give us some hand holding, some kind of annual maintenance. So, what kind of maintenance is to be given to the customer? Can some of these services can be streamlined? Can some technology be introduced so that most of the manual work can be reduced? So, what kind of customer service management are you talking about? Manufacturing flow management. So, this is an entire process in the supply chain where it talks about the operation. So, when we have understood that when you talk about supply chain management, it deals with inbound logistics, it deals with processing and or operations, and then the outbound logistics reaching to the market and all, right, everything. So, this is that part where we talk about how is the manufacturing flow going on, right. So, there are different parts, there are different assemblies, there are different production lines. Now, how do you maintain, how do you create an efficient flow of manufacturing? Then is order fulfillment, right. How can you, again, that is between order frequency or ordering of delivering an order, right, or let us say a company places an order, a customer places an order, or you place an order to your supplier. How do you maintain these orders, right? How can you create a smooth flow of order, right? Returns management, or which we also call it as reverse logistics. So, let us say nowadays most of you can understand, if I give this example, that when you buy from something from some e-commerce like Flipkart, Amazon or anything, after a few days you do not like the product or there is a defect, you try to return it. So, this return is something that the company is not gaining anything out of it. So, it has to understand that some kind of a mechanism has to be developed where the cost of return is minimum. Okay. So, the company does not waste too much of money on returns. So, because that will unnecessarily eat its profit. Okay. And finally, is product development and commercialization. So, how supply chain management can collect information from the market, help in the new product development, and even help in the smooth manufacturing processes, which can lead to a better commercialization of the product. And how do you manage the services, the kind of services that the customer is demanding? How do you manage? All these together, all these taken together will be considered as a part of the supply chain management. So, each process, if you can see, has a very important role to play. Now, if the company really needs to gain, really needs to optimize, it has to be very good at each of these processes. Okay. So, what are the approaches to supply chain management? The nature of the firm's supply chain efforts often depends on the nature of the product, right. So, the demand of its products or something. So, supply chain that thus can be divided into two parts. One is the functional products, on basis of the functional products. So, where we generally tend to follow an efficient supply chain. I will explain that. And then you have some innovative or some kind of a new product or radical product where you follow a responsive supply chain. So, it is not only this much, you can understand that products which need an efficient supply chain are those which are like both basically commodities, and any product which has a innovativeness in that or a newness in that, there you will have to use a responsive supply chain, because the customer needs to reach the market at the earliest, because if he does not use that first mover advantage or the early mover advantage, there will be no benefit for the customer. So, he wants it immediately. So, there a responsive supply chain is very important. Now, let us look at these functional products. Functional products typically have predictable demand patterns. So, as I said, they are like mostly like commodities, paper, maintenance, supplies, office furnitures. The goal is to design a supply chain with efficient physical distribution. Efficient here means we are saying cost effective, right. It minimizes the logistics and inventory cost and assures the low cost manufacturing. So, the whole idea is to create such a system that you reduce the cost to the minimum. Okay. Here the key information sharing takes place within the supply chain, so that all participants can effectively participate in the manufacturing, ordering and delivery to minimize these costs, right. So, what it says basically, functional products are those products which are those day to day products, common products or commodities or anything which where the demand can be easily predicted, and here all the partners, all the members of the supply chain, they are very clearly explained about their function, about their role, so that there is no wastage of time, there is no wastage of capacity, nothing, okay, and the cost is minimized. On the other hand, if you look at innovative products, are products which have a very less predictable demand. So, you do not know how it will what will happen to the demand next time. So, cell phones, high tech products like virtual reality, augmented products, many things, right. So, or new technology that is coming to the market. The goal for this is to design a supply chain with responsive physical distribution, that is reacting to the shorter life cycles. Now, as I said, most of the fashion products, they have a very short life cycle. So, anything, any machinery which is reduced, which is required to produce this let us say fashion products, because obviously the product will require to be manufactured, right. So, there is automatically a B2B side to it. So, this machinery also will have to change after this the product has lost its demand in the market. So, how do you maintain this manage this short life cycle, avoiding shortages, excessive supplies, and taking advantage of the high profits during the peak demand periods. So, innovative products are different kinds of products where there is a uncertainty attached to it. Okay. The critical task is to capture and distribute timely information on the customer demand. See, the most important thing in innovative product case is the information. So, the faster you can collect the information and the faster you can react to it, it is better for you and the customer. Okay. Now, when you look at the efficient versus responsive supply chain from different objectives, if we look at it, now how they are different, this is, let us take some examples. The objective of the functional good is to cut cost, right. Innovative goods is to respond quickly. Now, what happens if it fails? Suppose if it fails, what happens? In case of functional goods or the efficient supply chain, low price and higher cost will create margin squeezes. So, your profit margins will be squeezed, will be reduced and you may get into losses. What will happen if the efficient or the responsive supply chain does not work? There would be stockouts of high margin goods. So, you may not be able to reach the market in time, and there will be stockouts in the market which are highly profitable products or high premium paying products. So, you will lose out. What happens to the manufacturing goods? In case of manufacturing, run at high capacity utilization in the functional goods case, right. And in the case of the responsive, you can say this is efficient, right. This is responsive. Okay. So, in case of the responsive, what is happening? Be ready to alter the quantity and type as and when required. Okay. What happens to the inventory in case of the efficient case? Minimize everywhere. So, you do not need to have too much of inventory, but in case of responsive, you need to keep some buffer, always some safety, because when the customer would demand the product, you do not know. So, for in order to be responsive, highly responsive, if you do not have the product with you, you cannot produce it and then supply it, it will take time. So, you need to have some buffer inventory. Lead time can be long in case of the efficient one, because the demand is predictable, and here the lead time must be short. Now, what is the lead time? The time taken to from the time taken to receive an order and produce the good, right. So, the time taken, right. So, you receive an order, right, receive an order and then you produce it and dispatch. So, this time of dispatch, let us say this time is called the lead time, right. Now, this lead time must be pretty short in the responsive. If it is long, then what is the point? Why it cannot be a responsive supply chain. Suppliers are generally in the efficient supply chain low cost and required quality. That means, the quality is is not a very important thing. So, is important, but cost is the most predominant thing. Here we talk about a fast and flexible system. Now, in terms of product design, the design for ease of manufacturing to meet performance standards, and here design in modules. Now, modules means in parts. So, we are designing in modules, so that if you want a particular part, it can be easily given to the company. But here we are talking about design for ease. That means, how you can make a efficient process, or a process which is streamlined, so that it is like mass manufacturing, right. So, if you want to have an efficient supply chain or efficient process, a mass production system is required. Here we are talking about more like a flexible system, where you can change, we can alter, we can create some changes as and when required. Okay. Now, this term supply chain and logistics, they are generally used very similarly for one for the other, right. But actually that is wrong. We need to understand what is the difference between logistics and supply chain. In fact, supply chain is like the superset or the whole part, and logistics is only a small part of it. Logistics management is that part of the supply chain, it is a part of the supply chain that plans, implements and controls the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow of the goods, right. Now, that is why I have shown you a kind of a truck. So, what it contains is basically the distribution of the good, that means that the inbound, outbound logistics and the warehousing. So, that part only comes in the logistic as a part of the logistics. So, what it says, reverse flow and storage of goods, services and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet the customer's requirement. So, this is a definition by the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. So, logistics management is mostly involved with the transfer of the flow of the goods, and it talks about some kind of warehousing or handling of the goods. Okay. So, what is the difference? Logistics refers to activities that occur within the boundaries of a single organization, whereas supply chain refers to network of companies that work together and coordinate their actions. Second, traditional logistics focuses on activities such as procurement, distribution, maintenance and inventory. SCM is a traditional logistics plus marketing, new product development, finance and customer. So, SCM is kind of a, if you see, is more holistic in nature. It covers a lot of other aspects which a traditional logistics system does not. Okay. It is a traditional logistics system is all about only procurement, distribution, the logistic part, right, inbound and the outbound logistic and maintenance, inventory, warehousing, only those things. Here it talks about like new product development, the operational efficiency, marketing, everything. So, let us see what are the processes involved in logistics management. So, we have seen the processes involved in the supply chain management system. Now, let us look at the processes involved in the logistics management. So, the logistics management, the processes involved are customer service, order processing, logistics communication, right, transportation, warehousing, inventory control, packaging, material handling and production planning, right. and lastly plant and warehouse location. So, if you see there is lot of commonness also, but obviously it will be there since logistics is a part of the supply chain, but few things you will not see which is already there in the supply chain management part, right. So, logistics management is talking about largely about the material handling, packaging, inventory control, warehousing, transportation, order processing, even the plant and warehouse location, production plan. It is a typical process. So, now if you see obviously the logistics and supply chain, if you can compare it, it is the information side, the collection of the information and other things where which is a part of the supply chain management to understand the trends in the customer, to understand the how to place an order, everything, right. What are the new product development process, how to commercialize, all these things are part of the supply chain management. So, logistics management is the small sub part of it. It takes a large space, but it is still a part of the supply chain. Let us talk about a case study. This is a case about the channel decisions at Bhutani Leathers Private Limited. This is a company. Now, let us see what is this case about, what it is doing basically. So, this company is a business that has got a sole contract to supply a leather alternative which is cruelty free and vegan, right. Vegan is a word which is all of us understand, one that does not consume any animal products. Okay. So, to supply a product called, the product is called Pinatex, right. So, that has to be supplied, which is a free cruelty free product and vegan in nature. The target customers are the manufacturers of various products such as bags, shoes, wallets, watch, bands, seat covers, etc. Now, Bhutani Leathers has employed you as their marketing manager and made you responsible for forming a channel strategy to distribute the products, right. So, let us say in this case, if this is the case, if you are the marketing manager for Bhutani products and you have to sell this new kind of leather which is cruelty free, how would you do that? Let us answer to some questions. Which channel of distribution should the company adopt and why? First thing, what do you think is the channel of distribution the company should adopt? What are the points the company should consider while making its e-commerce website? Suppose the company wants to make a e-commerce website, what should it keep in mind? And how should the company approach its supply chain management system? Okay. Now, let us answer each one of it. So, you may try on your own and then look at what I have tried to say. First one, which channel of distribution should the company adopt and why? The company should use a combination of direct and indirect channels. Now, what I felt, the indirect channels the company should opt for e-commerce because of its low cost and wide network, and no sales teams is required because the company is small, right. It is a small company. So, there cannot be too much of funds. So, it is better to go for a e-commerce platform. Now, if it wants to go for an indirect channel, the company can partner with industrial dealers at locations where business potential is high. This is because the dealers can carry the inventory which reduces the need for warehousing. So, you see, if a company is small as Bhutani Leathers, then e-commerce is one thing that they can do, and the other thing is they can depend on their industrial dealers and the distributors. What are the points the company should consider while making its suppose the company wants a e-commerce website, what should be the points? Now, as the company is serving a variety of segments, watchmakers, shoemakers, seat makers, etc., the website should be able to filter the products on the basis of usage. Now, what usage value it is providing, that should be the highlight. As the product is new in market and business customers require more information while purchasing, the website should be content heavy so that customers can find most of the information they are looking for, right. And if you look at from a marketing perspective, you can also talk about the being it is a vegan or a cruelty free, that should be the highlight of the somewhere the highlight of the product or the website, in the website. Okay. The website should have a contact form so that the customers can contact the firm in case they have any query. The website should allow customers to place orders for customized products, right. And lastly, the ordering should be smooth and fast. So, ordering is one thing that is generally a big hindrance or it creates a lot of difficulty. So, that should be very smooth and fast. How should the company approach its supply chain management? as the product in question is more related to the category of innovative products, right, the company should focus on creating a responsive supply chain, right. That is, supply chain decisions should center on hedging against uncertain demand. So, because it is a new product, the market does not understand it. So, there is no certainty of what kind of demand we can get. So, in such a condition, a responsive supply chain would be preferable than efficient supply chain, because in this case, the customers who would be buying this product would be people who are conscious or concerned about animals and all, and such kind of people, when they demand, they are also ready to pay a premium. So, the company should highlight on this, and this can be done by capturing and distributing timely information on the customer demand. So, Pinatex should be considered in category of innovative products, and thus a responsive supply chain would be the most desirable thing, right. So, with this we have come through the end of this lecture, and I think you are clear with what I have tried to explain. So, what is supply chain management, how supply chain management has been working wonders for several companies, and companies who have been not able to handle the supply chain issues well, they have either failed, they have been a failure, or they have been out of the market, right. So, supply chain is more about it creates a lot of opportunities, it creates a lot of value for the companies and the entire network of suppliers and distributors and customers who are engaged with the company. So, finally, I would say, if any company, or if you want to be a manager tomorrow, or you are trying to appreciate or work in some company, you need to understand what is supply chain management, how supply chain management is very important and critical for any company, and how it is different from logistics. Logistics and supply chain, mostly people think they are one and same, but they are not. Logistics is a part of the supply chain, and supply chain is much more uh, bigger in scope and size. Okay. So, with this I like to wind up this lecture and meet you in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Thank you very much.